Marty.
Shh, you'll scare the fish.
But we're missing the big football game.
Relax. My VHS home video recorder is taping it right now.
Terrific.
Watch.
Terrific. But suppose it's over 3 hours.
Relax. Panasonic VHS tapes up to 4 hours of sports, movies, specials on one cassette.
Wow. This VHS is for me. We caught the whole game.
Best catch of the day.
Yeah.
VHS, the 4-hour system from Panasonic and other leading companies.
Relax. What you missed here is that these two dudes were fishing at the beginning of the commercial, and panicky angler number 2 was upset they were going to miss the big football game. But not to fear, they've got a VCR. When I was a kid, anybody who had a VCR were at least distant relatives to Ted Turner or somebody with money. Who were the rich guys of the 80s? Sam Walton? I don't know. Well, today we're going to talk about these boxes that brought the magic of cinema and shrunk it down into our living room. We've got a bunch of firsthand and probably some relatable stories that are pretty universal about buying a VCR, dragging it home, and plugging that thing in. And we're going to do that today with our good buddy Jason. And we're going to do that right now. All right, welcome in, Jason Dean.
Hey, what's happening, brother?
Not much. You know what's happening? You heard the intro. We were talking about those magic machines from the early 80s that we all got, mid-80s, the VCR.
Oh, what a wonderful time. Those were awesome.
It was. Do you remember your first one?
I do remember our first one. I called my parents. I'm like, because I can't remember what year it was. And we think maybe it was around 84. How about you guys?
Yeah, about 85, I think. I think you set the curve there.
Yeah, that's the first time we were the coolest doing anything. So awesome.
You know what? I've got a story here from Facebook. Let's see here. I posted February of 2021. This is when I was a kid. I got my first pair of spot-built football cleats at Wilson's at the Sooner Fashion Mall in Norman, Oklahoma. The same day, we had an enormous VCR with a wired remote at Montgomery Ward at Crossroads. And then it says, I'm 200 years old.
Dude, well, that's exactly, I told you in the episode we did about some of the commercials and stuff, we weren't soundtrack people. We were Montgomery Ward's people. And that's exactly where ours came from. I tried to remember how much we paid for it. And the answers I got were anywhere from $200 to $800 from my parents and anybody that were there, but they were crazy expensive.
I don't think you could get one for $200 back then.
I don't either. And I looked and I actually tried to go do some research and find some ads, and everything was $400 to $750 that I saw.
Yeah, I checked today. The first commercially available VCR was Philips. Let's see, some kind of model number. It launched in 72. So that means only the richest people in the world had one of those things in the early to mid 70s. And when people gripe now, like, why do they need that? Like on any kind of, like the first Teslas were, $1 billion. Nobody needs that. Well, now they're mass produced and now the poorest can get them. And that's what happened with VCRs. They started selling them for $99.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read by 1988, 62% of the people in the United States had a VCR in their house. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's technology that landed. So the Betamax came out in 75. I'm not really interested in the Betamax VCR battle. It didn't last long. Let's see, VHS debuted in 76. And that's when they started strapping them to carts and bringing them into classrooms, which was greatness.
That's how you knew the day was going to get better.
Right.
The only thing we ever watched on that was the Disney Robin Hood. You remember that one with the fox? And I knew that's what we were going to watch. That's what was happening when you wheeled those in. And later on, somebody thought we should strap these things.
Right.
Because go ahead.
The big tube TV is it's top heavy.
Yeah, no joke. So after losing about 8 of those, finally somebody went, how about a ratchet strap somewhere?
The last VCR produced was Funai, sounds Japanese, in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Also, it said in the mid-70s, a blank cassette was around $30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. What now? You say you remember your first one. Do you remember the brand or any of that kind of stuff about it?
I know I think it was a Sharp, I
Okay.
think, but it had the buttons that you had to drop the little, piece of plastic in there to tell you what channel that corresponded with on the cable box.
Oh, what in the world?
Yeah, and it had a wired remote that had a
Okay.
pause. So you could pause during commercials if you're recording something, or pause to go get yourself a tasty Capri Sun and come back and finish
Oh, that's
Spider-Man or
so
whatever you're
great.
watching.
That
Yeah,
is so
that was
great.
pretty great.
They just opened up a whole world of just coolness to everybody. For the first time, we were able to do so many awesome things. So what a
Yeah,
fun time.
back then, the way they treated it, like, you didn't shop for a VCR, you, like, financed an emotional decision, like, it
Yeah.
was like this groundswell, and do you remember the ceremony of opening that thing up at the house like it was just the Ark of the Covenant?
I don't. And I what I remember is it just being there and me having all these questions about like, I thought we don't have McDonald's money. You know what I mean? Like, I thought because looking back, a $500 VCR in 1984 that I pulled the numbers, that's $1,576 today. So, I mean,
That's a lot of Happy Meals.
that is a lot of Happy Meals, but ours just appeared because believe it or not, I wasn't included in the decision or the purchase. I had being 8, 9 years old, they weren't gonna
Yeah.
I wasn't expected to kick in, but I just remember it appearing and going, "What is this? This is
I
magical."
I remember mom and dad being so engrossed in the salesman's talk, all the pitch on it. I was going up and down the escalator and watching them. They were on the top floor, and as I was going down, I'd lose sight of them. I'd run around and go back up. I
Yep,
probably did that 20 times while they were deciding which VCR I was gonna get to watch football on.
that's so cool. Did you remember, like I
So
said,
no
they didn't take me out in public a lot. I didn't act right, so shocker.
so nobody knew how to program ours. We spent forever trying to get the blinking 12 off, but get this, ours came with a VHS tape on how to set up your VCR.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So we opened the box and, "Oh, here's the tape that tells us how to do it. So
How
let's
where's the tape
let's
that
fire."
tells you how to put this tape in there?
Yeah,
Let's go to YouTube.
it
Oh,
makes as much sense, right. It makes as much sense, but, dad said, "What do you suppose this is?" And it said set up instructions on it on a piece of paper on the tape. Like, "Oh, I guess we go to a neighbor's house that has one and take notes?"
yeah, yeah. I I don't know who figured ours out. We never and I promise you, we never figured out how to set a future recording on it.
Yo, no, no.
It was
That was
still very
impossible.
yeah, it was still very much as soon as the show started, hit play and record at the same time and
Yeah.
hope nobody jacks with it.
Or if you're leaving the house, just to hit record and hope that it gets all of what's gonna come on in 45 minutes.
Yeah. And I never
Yeah,
understood the SLP, LP. Do you remember there were all those settings?
it was like difficulty settings in Pac-Man. There's like one was slow play and one
Okay.
was, extended, and so if you did the EP, it would be grainy and terrible because they would pack so much on the tape and it
Okay.
would go real real slow. But the SP was supposed to be the higher quality, but, nothing was high def. It was all analog.
Where were you 42 years ago? That's absolutely thank you for the information. I could use none of it now. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I coulda again, there was no Google back then. I probably coulda read the manual, but I was 8.
They had these big buttons on them, and
Yeah.
some of the older ones had, like, an actual TV, like, tuning knob, like, twisted.
Yeah, see, ours
Like
was
those
ours was pretty sleek. It came out the front. Some of my buddies that if you were sitting close to it, when that thing ejected out of the top, you could be hurt.
Right.
But ours was
Yeah.
really smooth. It just came right out of the front. Oh, it was, like the Trans Am of VCRs, if you will.
Oh, I will.
Even if you won't.
I know a lot of kids now that get tech, and nothing is inspiring anymore. Nothing like is wow. So when we had a VCR, we I remember my mom telling my dad, "So we can go to a store and rent a movie that's been at the theater and
Yeah.
watch it whenever we want to." And I remember we went for the first time. There's a place on 12th Street we'd go to, and they had Gone with the Wind. It was a 2-tape set,
Yikes.
and it was like $400 for
To
this
buy?
movie. Yes.
Holy cow.
And the dude said, well, you can watch it anytime you want to. I remember my dad saying, I could finance a
Yeah.
5-act play in my backyard to have a performance for me for that.
I could probably get Hattie McDaniel or all these people that were in it or whatever and have them act it out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, but $400, that's what you paid for the VCR. And
Right.
plus it comes on once a year. Who wants to watch Gone with the Wind more than that? Good grief.
Hey, if you grew up before everybody carried tiny video cameras in their pockets, chances are your best memories are sitting on a VHS tape somewhere. Birthday parties, backyard wiffle ball, maybe even that first camcorder Christmas morning. Well, here's the thing. Those tapes don't last forever. That's where the guys at the Digitize Center help out. They convert your old VHS tapes, camcorder tapes, reel-to-reels, photos, slides, cave drawings into high-quality digital files so you can actually watch them and share them again. Don't let your 1987 live-on tapes degrading in your attic. Head to thedigitizecenter.com and use promo code FREENIGHTS for 60% off your order. Go to their website, read thousands of 5-star reviews, and make that commitment to preserving those memories digitally. Remember promo code FREENIGHTS for 60% off your order and bring those family memories and milestones back to life before they're lost forever. Yeah, it's 16 hours worth of quality movie, but it's 16 hours worth of quality movie.
That's exactly right.
Or however long it
Yikes.
bills. Anyway.
No thanks.
So there's, like I was saying, the kids now, I don't know that they get that awe because it's coming at us so fast now.
Yeah. Yeah. And nothing changes the way we do things like that did. We would go, and I remember the first one we went to I can remember the name, was Showcase Video. You remember signing up for a membership card that they would keep on file? It was a whole thing. And you went and you signed up and they had a little, not a Rolodex, but a little card file thing and with your name in it. And they would write on it which movie that you took out. And I remember the Showcase Video. You remember Happy Days Records there on 89th and Western?
Of course.
It was on the back side of that. And it was Showcase Video. And the first time we went in, I didn't even really fully understand the concept because everything was still so new, but they had a wall and I'll bet there were 40 movies on it maybe. And a lot of them not movie worthy.
And then there were the bigger stores like the one like Movies, Etc. and more. And then there were the small town, Newcastle and Noble all had a store that had pagers and tanning beds and VCR movies.
Yep. And yogurt, frozen yogurt for some reason.
Yeah. And there's like 40 titles. Some of them look suspiciously like they were taped off of HBO.
Yeah. And there were some, I remember, remember when Pratt's opened up there on the corner of 12th Street Eastern and more, after they opened up, they added a video rental. You remember that?
All right. Yeah. So just so we're clear here, it's a national show. Every town in America has these stores. It's not, it wasn't unique to us. TV World and Movies, Etc. there on Broadway. Every town of any size had these stores. We're just putting a name to ours.
Yeah, they're not unique to Moore, Oklahoma, but you would go in, and I remember when you walked in the front door, and I can still see the videotape, and I don't know if anybody ever checked this thing out, but it was bow hunting for white-tailed deer. Was the name, and it was in the very first turnstile. You'd sit there and go, well, that one's still available. Who watching another guy hunt? How exciting is this? Is it real time? Do I get to sit in a deer stand with him for 16 hours hoping a deer walks underneath him?
Twitch has built an entire platform on watching people play video games. It seems about as entertaining.
My kids will do the same thing. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm watching this streamer play Minecraft. I'm like, well, you have Minecraft. Well, yeah, but it's more fun to watch somebody else play it. I'm like, you're the weirdest people I've ever met.
That doesn't make sense to me. They all do that.
They all do it. I don't know.
I couldn't stand that.
And there's no way we're the weirdos.
Were any of these kids ever the youngest? Because I've had my fill of watching siblings play Pac-Man where I'm sitting on the floor and not playing. So I've had enough of that.
Watching somebody else play a game is not that great.
Yeah.
Or hunt.
No, that's the truth. So did you ever go to the beaded room?
No, because I'm a Christian. No, but you know what? I was we would peek through. You know, we
Yeah,
would.
I've been beaded room adjacent, but I don't think I ever went in.
I didn't ever go in either, and you know, I don't know what was back. Well, I do know what was back there, but
Yeah, you know.
I was always. It's not like I could drive. You know what I mean? I didn't go there by myself, so my parents were always with me. So you know, and I didn't look older than I was, so there was no little rascals Jeff getting on my shoulders and us getting a trench coat and going into the beaded room. You know, it was there was nothing in there for us. So
Yeah.
anyway, I
Well,
loved going and looking at all the covers and just wondering
did you
what is
ever
this
rent
about?
a movie based on the cover?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. There was some that you're just like, I wonder what this is, and you would get it. And
I went to Movies Etc. back before it moved to that big place on 4th Street
yeah,
on Broadway. Golly, this is I promise this isn't just a podcast about Moore, Oklahoma, the heartbeat of Cleveland County, Oklahoma. I promise.
yeah,
But again, everybody has these stories. There was a video store that was just video. They did a great job. It was the first modern looking video store.
yep,
I went in there and they had a movie called Satan's Sadist,
yes,
and it was banned in 14 countries.
yeah, it
And it
was.
had this biker dude with the sleeves ripped off, and he had a chain. And there was this essentially a woman tied to railroad tracks back in the 1914.
Mm-hmm.
But it was this chick in a torn bikini, and she's like, "Oh no, Satan's sadists are gonna do mean things to me." And I thought, at 11,
We can
12
only hope.
maybe,
Yep.
maybe 13, I thought I probably I probably need to do some research here.
Yeah.
So I remember taking it up to the counter, and this woman in her 40s looks at me like, "Good Lord," and she checks it out, and I remember when I returned it, so wildly disappointed. By the way,
Yeah.
there was nothing like that cover in the movie. It was just a bunch of jackasses riding around on their motorcycles, causing trouble, like being hooligans, miscreants.
It probably looked like
And
the filmography that we talked about back on the local commercials episode. It probably made that look brilliant,
the
right?
one scene, titillating scene in the movie was when one of the biker dudes revs his bike in front of a bar, and a guy comes out and hands him a drink, all scared. That was it. Like, no sadists, no nothing. And I was so disappointed. Now I took it back. I returned it in. There was a dude there, and I said, "Hey, is this going to show up on our movie rental history?" Because it just
Your parents
occurred
are
to me that when mom's in there renting Aristocats for
Yeah.
us, that the rescuers, that
Yeah.
he's gonna say, "Hey, we got Satan sadists too. If you're interested," like
if they when they make you make eye contact with the guy when you turn it in, you should have hit him with the book was much better. Make yourself look like an elitist, right? I read the book and I kind of wanted to see if the film was any better, but anyway,
It wasn't.
no. But there was a lot. You're not a horror guy, and I know it, but I was absolutely ate up with it. Halloween, they showed a made-for-TV version in like 1980 or 81, and I watched that being 7 years old, and I just loved horror movies. And there were a billion of those horror
Oh,
movies in there.
good Lord.
Yeah.
At 7?
Yeah. Which it was the made-for-TV one, which Halloween, the original, doesn't ever really show any blood or anything like that. It just
I've mentioned this before. My brother was watching me and my sister one night. He's a senior in high school. So that would have put me in the 2nd grade. He's 10 years older. And he let us watch Carrie
oh my word.
in the living room with the lights out. He'd jump at me every once in a while and scream. So he was a good brother.
That's good stuff though. That's a memory. You got that one filed away still, but there were dozens of those that you saw the cover of and you're like, I got to get Sleepaway Camp, which is just the dumbest movie that's ever been made. And
to my brother's credit though, later that night I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I remember him rubbing me, rubbing my back and saying, "Hey bud, that's just a movie." And
Yeah.
so he couldn't even be that jerk older brother for a full 4 hours.
Yeah, he just wasn't good at it. That's okay. Know your limitations.
The good guy to come out, which a little disappointing.
Yeah. Which, my brother would have rubbed my back and whispered in my ear, if you tell mom and dad, I'll kill you. And I gotta share a room with that guy. So
he's a year older.
do you remember getting your first movie? Do you remember what it was?
I do. I remember telling my mom I wanted Top Secret because it had a cow with boots. And
He had boots on, rubber boots. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. It seemed like that's probably something I need to witness to be a part of.
Yep.
She turned it over and read about it, and I don't know if she was upset at Val. I don't know what the problem was, but that I didn't get to get it. So we got Superman. We watched Superman save the day, and so
Superman
that
78. Yep.
that was good. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. But it just, it changed everything because there was anticipation. We called it Friday Night Out, which I don't know who labeled it that. They probably let me name it, even though we were going nowhere other than to the store just to rent
Yeah.
something.
You're going to the ass end of Happy Days,
That's right. That's right.
a record store. So that's kind of an outing.
Yeah. And so we'd go get a movie or three. I had a brother and sister, so there's three of us. So we would typically each get something. And, we would also go by the grocery store and get the 1 gallon gilt edged gigantic vanilla tub of ice cream. And you remember Magic Shell? We'd get some toppings for it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'd get some toppings for it, and we
that.
would come back and we would sit around the TV and watch a show. And that was Friday nights at our house, and it was some of the best times of my life.
That is not a terrible Friday night.
I don't even know if we all had to sit there and watch each other's, but I'm telling you, it changed everything for us. And my parents were also foster parents for a length of time. So we'd always, sometimes we'd have up to, 1.7 kids huddled around. And it was just an awesome thing to do, to all sit there and.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was
to all
great.
sit there and watch Faces of Death.
We watched that. We did watch that. Did you know they just released another one?
I know. You breathlessly texted me that a couple of weeks ago, all excited.
I know. Dude, it was a rite of passage for me. And then, I'm just shocked, at the doctor, Francis B. Gross. That's not even his real name.
What?
I know. So I don't even know if he's in the new one or not. There were a lot of those rite of passage ones. Did you guys have any that you just remember? Oh my gosh, everybody has to see this.
Yes.
Not the kind you could rent from the store, weirdo. Not
yes. No, I told you we didn't go into the beads because people at my church would go into that store too. And if I'm walking out of there with a handful of those tapes out of the beads.
Yeah, I was just back there handing out tracts on baptism.
I just went in there to get directions away from there.
Right. Now nobody can rent these because I've got them. You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm just taking out the trash.
That's exactly right. These are horrible. I sit through every disgusting frame 7 times, and these are horrific.
Yeah, I don't know part of that. So yeah, my mom cracked up at the Cannonball Run movies.
Really?
And so we watched that movie. We watched that movie more than we should have. They took my sister and I to see 9 to 5.
Oh yeah.
At the Moore Theater
Excellent.
Behind the City Moore Shopping Center.
Yes.
And they played Cannonball Run before 9 to 5. And I remember I got to sit by myself because there were 15 people there. And I remember walking back to my parents and saying, I don't think this is 9 to 5. And it had, Burt Reynolds blazing down the road with Dom DeLuise. And Dad said, it's all right, bud. It's coming on next. Whatever, dude. I think I know this isn't 9 to 5. But it eventually came on. And so those two movies were pretty big at the house. And my mom, man, and Cannonball Run 2 actually had a soft spot too when she would see Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. in their priest's outfit. She just cracked up. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That for a Bible Belt mother back then, that's fantastic that she latched to those. Yeah. That's great.
She found them very funny.
We had, somebody would record something or somehow get a recording of, in our neighborhood, Eddie Murphy, the stand-ups were a big deal. Delirious and Raw, which I never thought, I'm sure the hate mail's coming in, but I never thought either one was that funny. But it was such a part of pop culture that you had, that I memorized the words and could spout it all off. And
I didn't finish them. I didn't think they were funny at all.
Yeah, I didn't think they were great. I think Eddie Murphy and some of his movies are fantastic, but I didn't like the stand-up.
It's so weird that I still write stand-up, and I started in the later years of high school. I've sold bits professionally, and I did stand-up very briefly. It wasn't very fun, but I still write occasionally for a guy I know, and I don't enjoy stand-up.
Really?
I don't enjoy watching it. Yeah,
that's craziness.
Part of it is because a great buddy of mine, Jed, used to write as well. He used to perform, and we met during that era of both of our lives. And he would say, "I don't watch a lot of it either because I don't want to be a hack. I don't want to unintentionally write a joke that I've heard before."
Right, right. I get
And
that.
so it kind of started back then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But well,
I don't know.
so we had those floating around the neighborhood. We had the Faces of Death. We had I know, which they were
Oh,
just
wait a minute.
ridiculous.
No,
What?
that makes sense. Those kind of movies, there was kind of an underground economy where
Yeah,
the little neighborhood creeps would like pass those movies around.
that's exactly who we were.
Were you one of the neighborhood creeps?
I didn't think so, but we all had our neighborhood. We had a couple of kids that lived around the corner that were 2 years older than us. And so they would introduce us to stuff. And I was, we were raised in a church going household and pretty, not sheltered, but my parents looked out for the things that we saw and ingested. And sometimes we'd go to some of these other guys' houses and we'd see some of that stuff. And I was sometimes not sure why it was funny, but you couldn't act like that. You know what I mean? Because
Dude, you are preaching to the choir. Everybody needed to have a friend from a broken home.
yeah, my mom's out with her new boyfriend. Those are words I never uttered.
Yeah, I had friends like that, and I loved going to their house. But then after a few hours, I felt weird and I wanted to go home because it was just
Yeah, we
too
had too
many,
much freedom.
yeah,
Yeah,
so weird.
it is weird, but it's not. I appreciate the
Uh,
upbringing I had because I was protected against a lot of that stuff, and that you shouldn't at 11 years old listen to some of that stuff. 8,000, not to preach, to be preachy or anything, but I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't think it was funny. I don't know.
I shouldn't be over there with mom's boyfriend, Carl, helping him weigh out kilos of Coke or
That's
cut
exactly
it with
right.
baby Lexus. What'd you do today, son? Some chemistry and some math and oh,
How do you know exactly how many grams 2 pounds is? I'm like, I don't know. I'm
why
just
did you
good at math. No, you're not.
why did you ask me for your potatoes to be measured in grams? I don't
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
pretty
I just got
funny.
an eye for it, mom. I'm good at metrics.
Oh, that's funny.
That's no
Good
good.
stuff.
All right, we're getting off trails. We're
We
getting
are getting
off
off.
the reactor. So we had a magic tool with our VCR. We almost didn't make it through the first full night with a VCR because every movie we had was sideways and crinkly, and the people were the wrong color,
Mm,
and we couldn't figure it out. And Dad said, "I don't think this thing works." And
mm.
so, you slap it, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
You unhook the whole thing and hook it back up. And so I remember calling TV World where we rented the movies and I said, "Man, this thing is crazy looking. Can I bring it back? Do you have another movie we could rent?" And he said, "Well, have you messed with tracking?" I don't know what that
uh,
was. And so
yeah,
I had this little plastic tool that you had to stick in a little keyhole and twist. And then it was magic. It worked. It
yeah.
did what it needed to do.
Our buttons were right along the bottom, the tracking, and I don't know how it got off of tracking, or I don't even know what it did, but I just spin it to the left or to the right underneath there, and yep, fix it. We're technological wizards.
My mom was a camera bug, and so eventually I had to go to my sister's choral concerts. Good Lord.
Yeah.
At school, mom bought a camcorder, mid 86
Mm,
7. And so we had 800,000 videotapes around our house all of a sudden with football games, my football games and my
yeah,
sister's choral things and my brother getting some kind of degree or a patent or sick of him.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so we had all these tapes everywhere. And I don't even know where all those went. When my parents passed away, I think those taped Andy Griffith shows and mom driving around town making dad drive her so she could film snow.
yeah, yeah.
They're lost to history.
That's terrible. See, we've got a box of them, and we've got to get those off to the Digitize Center, by the way, because we've
Dude,
got one of these days. They're not going to be recoverable. But
what a great segue.
everybody has a big box of those just sitting somewhere, and we've got to do something with those.
Did you ever need a tape to record something and either accidentally or on purpose decide this is stupid? I'm going to record over it.
I don't think I ever did. I really don't think I ever did.
I did. There was a Braves. It wouldn't have been the playoffs back then because they were terrible. It was like a regular season Braves game where It was like a special one where they got beat by less than 5 runs.
Nice.
Fewer than 5 runs. Fewer.
Both of those.
And so I taped it. Oh, why I needed to see that game so bad. And it was over something Mom was real proud of. And she went to play it one time, and she never played those tapes. And then it's a 4-year-old baseball game, and I'm in college. Like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's my fault. That one's on me. There was no wondering who did this. We had some that we just recorded on. This was your tape. If you need to watch a show or record a show, and then it'd been recorded on and over 1,000 times. And they finally wore out, but no, we never
see through it.
Yeah, it was crazy. Great times.
I had that remote, and when we record a movie and I would watch it, I would try to cut out the commercials.
Yeah.
And I'd get most of the commercial and cut out like a lot of the plot, trying to time it right.
Yeah.
So I wasn't great at that. It built characters, but
yeah,
I got a lot of character.
You should have it anywhere. Where do you keep it? It was in the box with your mom's VCR tapes. Somebody got rid of that.
So there's an individual we went to high school with. I'm not going to give his name here. I want to so bad, but he's a pretty good buddy of mine. We played ball together, and he was I don't want to tell too much. He was always in the gym. Anyway, he's telling me about his story. He's digging through videotapes one day and popped one in. It's his parents.
No, it's not.
It's his parents in Congress.
Oh no.
And I'd asked him, I think he was kidding. I hope he was kidding. I said, "Oh my God, what'd you do?" He said, "Well, I watched it." And then
what?
I don't think he did. He's kidding. But he said, "No, man, I freaked out and almost jammed my wrist trying to take that thing out of the VCR."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if he ever mentioned it or anything. I don't know if he learned about his mom's tattoo that way, but that's a rough thing.
You better mind your own business is what that's a lesson in right there.
Well, maybe we should keep our sex tapes away from Gen Pop in the living room with all the other tapes.
I'm sure they did, but he's probably nosy. I bet they did. Yeah. That wasn't a rerun or whatever. Mind your business, kid.
It's Matlock.
That's right.
There's my boy putting it in. I'm going to watch this. Oh, that's
not Little House on the Prairie at all.
God. Oh man, I gotta watch mine. I'll tell you who that is when we turn the mic off.
Hopefully I don't have to look him in the eye or his mother. I hope I don't know his parents.
So do you remember how uptight they got when you didn't rewind the tape?
No, because I am a rule follower. We rewind the tapes. No, we always rewound our tapes.
There was a $2 fee if you didn't rewind your tape at TV World. And I brought one in there one time, unrewound, and he said, "This isn't rewound." But yeah, I know.
My time's so important.
And so he slaps that thing in one of those race car looking rewinders.
Oh, yeah.
And about 20 seconds later, he pops it back in the box. He said, "Don't let it happen again."
Oh. God. Yeah, good grief.
Yeah.
We never had one of the rewinders. I remember those were a big deal there for a little bit. Because you needed to prolong the motor on your you don't want to burn the motor up on that VCR.
Yeah, that was the story. I had a Facebook reel about that when Mark and I were talking about 80s tech, and we briefly talked about VCRs. And I just remember, those guys selling those. They were like $35-$40. I don't recommend buying a VCR without one of these rewinders.
My parents gave us the VCR when we got married, which we got married in 94 because we're hillbillies and we were pretty young. So my parents just sent that out with us. It was a 10-year-old VCR at that time. And we kept that thing for probably, 20 years, probably. In 94 to, probably 2014 or so. And finally, they quit making parts for us. So we just tossed it out. And we were never in danger of our motor going out on ours. We used that thing forever. So I think that was just they're like, man, these VCRs are being built way better than we thought they would. We've got to scare people like they always do into buying a rewinder. So
right. Yeah, those things were durable. Like they say, they get parts for them, so you can get a warranty. But all that thing was moving parts. You ever looked inside one of those things?
Yeah, we dumped ours over when parents weren't there. And we'd always just end up knocking it off the thing, or and they were always They were always right. We never tore that thing up, and we were a rowdy house full of kids.
Yeah.
So
I got a
I don't know.
couple of friends that came over just to see ours because they didn't have one yet.
Yeah.
Owning a VCR in '85 was like owning a Tesla around 2012. It's confusing and expensive, but
Yep.
everybody wanted to come over and see it.
Yeah, and again, going back to the Betamax things you were earlier, you hitched your wagons to one of those things, and if you bet wrong, good grief, you know what I mean? So we did the same. We got one pretty early. We got it around the same time we got a Commodore 64. We were teched out over here. We didn't know what to do with it. My parents, it was an attempt to turn us into intellectuals, which I don't want to spoil the plot, but it didn't work out.
It didn't take.
It did not take. But anyway, we had that was great. That was a great time. VCRs, man. I will never forget that. And we tried to duplicate that with our kids, but the way they consume things now, they're not going to sit still for an hour and a half
No,
and
no.
watch something.
I'll tell you something else too. They have the equivalent. Remember going to a video store? Blockbuster was a big example of this. They would have the movies sitting out, and you had to see if the tape was behind it.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so it was like roulette. You go in there and there it is. There it is. You pull it back.
Mhm.
Ah, it's empty. It's kids now like, oh, what if this is on Netflix? Come on, be on Netflix. Oh, it's not available on Netflix. It's kind of the same.
It's a check Netflix. No, it's check Paramount, check Tubi, check AMC Plus, check. They've got 49 freaking streaming things that they can go check all of them and go, well, you can rent it on Amazon Prime for this, or there's 15 of those you can go through and find it and go, well, I found it, but you have to buy it and it's $8.99. I'm just like, look,
Yeah.
buy it. So yeah, and you know what? What's crazy about those now is, you can buy the movie and own it, and you don't have to wrestle with the tape or anything. It just goes in your library on your TV somewhere. And you remember buying when VHS tapes were made available to the public to buy? We talked about Gone with the Wind, but I remember E.T. coming out and it was $24.99. And I remember, I remember that going, golly, that was a big release, and that was like 1988. It was a little while before those things were made super available, and then Disney and all those people started issuing back catalogs of things and making a killing off of them.
That's true. Except Song of the South. Man, they did not care for that being out there.
No, that one's buried somewhere. But even so, I mean, there's such heavy nostalgia. My wife was at Sam's the other day, and they've got these, it looks like the old VCR plastic cover for one of the tape, but inside of it's like a blanket that's the actual cover of the old VCR cover.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they've got that of some of the Disney movies. So it's funny, we've got this disposable income now that we're of a certain age, or some of us do, and they market those things directly to us. So we've got them.
Well, I know you're an old baseball player, so you probably, you're a pitcher, so you're used to the crack of the bat, probably.
I was, sadly, I was too much.
That's high school, so it's a ping.
That's right. Did we bring more baseballs, or was that the only one? Because that one's 500 feet from here now.
So I know baseball guys love the crack of the bat. That is so neat at a ballpark, Major League Park. You hear that, that one's gone.
Yep.
And then like a really good like form tackle, you hear the shoulder pads crunch.
Yep.
That's a great sound. The videotape going into the VCR on a Friday night is like that. School's out for 2 days. This is it.
This is
great
it.
Sound.
It was magical. And like I said, our family, for us, and I talk about this, with my brother and my parents over the last few days, it was a great time for us, just to sit around and we didn't travel a whole lot. My dad owned his own business when we were younger. So Friday nights to decompress, to go do a simple thing like getting some ice cream, sitting around the TV and just sitting on the floor together, or having a friend spend the night or whatever. It's unbeatable. I'll remember those things till the day I die.
Yeah, that's the truth. So like I said, man, the chunk of the tape as it goes in the machine, the whirl that it makes, the glow for the TV. Remember how special it was to see either the Pegasus jumping over the name or Orion showing up, any kind of production company, like, oh, that's what's in the movies.
You know what I remember is trying to read the FBI thing before it went off the TV.
Do not make eye contact with the FBI
message.
No. Or attempt to tape this.
Yep. Or try to profit off of this.
Right.
I could not claim ignorance because I would try to read it either out loud or in my own head before it went away. So I could not claim ignorance at all and would
It
be
had
in
the
clear
crest.
violation. Oh,
It
yeah.
had the crest, and William Sessions, director
Yeah.
of FBI, says,
Yeah.
"Go to hell."
He
Okay,
says,
God.
"Yeah, do not try to make any profit off of this." And I'm like, well, I'm 8 years old.
Yeah, well, you also tried to record Major League Baseball with the implied oral consent.
That's exactly the part. No, yeah, yeah. Without the express written consent of the Braves or, yeah, or
Right.
for the Cubs, WGN or Ted Turner signs this directly. Yeah, there was all that. But
Truth.
good grief.
That's it, man. You've captured it. And look, we're not just old men talking about how great it was because
No.
VCRs were great. It was cumbersome. I love streaming stuff now. I watch junk all the time. I
Yeah.
pulled up a Monty Python skit last night that I was thinking about. I had seen in junior high, cracked up at it, and I thought, "Huh, I'd like to see that again." YouTube, boom, I'm watching it. Wasn't as funny as I remembered it.
Everything's at your fingertips. And, you know, also the waiting, you know what I mean? We were good at waiting because, like you said earlier, when you would run up and grab that case and it's not behind it.
Right.
There's none available. So then you go check in at the front with the guy at Blockbuster. Has anybody turned one in today? And you know they're not turning ET back in. It just came out. But
Let me check. They look at the
the look
basket
at
below the drop box. Yeah.
yeah. And he halfway turns his shoulder and looks over and goes, nope. So
No.
yeah, just that
You've
we
got
learned.
40 copies. You got 40 copies out.
Yeah,
Like nobody brought this back.
there's something to be said. We settled. Well, I guess I'll watch this one. You know, it's
Right.
right next to it, and you always had to have a 1, 2, or 3 ABC that you wanted to. So, you know what? Those again, not that we're just two old dudes talking about, but they were great times.
I'm
We
gonna tell you about that. I will tell you about that. You painted the picture really well about the Friday night.
yeah,
I don't miss going to a video store, finding a place to park, going in, looking at all the titles, having the kids screaming, taking
mhm.
it to the counter, buying or renting it, and then coming home and plopping it in a machine, and then you got to go back the next day to return it. I don't miss that.
No,
I miss the experience at the house with the
yeah,
family and how the novelty of not my feet weren't sticking to the shag carpet like at a theater because we're not
yeah.
at a theater. We're watching movies that were just in the theater 6 months earlier, and it was just so neat.
What a great time, man! Can't be replaced.
Yeah, that's so true. I had a manager at a big company that I worked for, huge company, Fortune 50. Probably the best manager. He is the best manager I've ever had at any job. I learned so much from him. Not so much how to do my job, but how to do his job, which
That's great.
just by
Good for him.
watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the best. They wanted to use the internal company's business credit for our business customers because it, of course, would get in the interest, and it's just a more lucrative way to do business for the company.
hmm
And everybody was griping about it. And he essentially said, "Children, listen." He told a story when he worked at Dillard's, I guess during his college years or early adult. He sold electronics and he was told to pitch them on the in-store credit card. And they would either get a discount on the VCRs they were pitching
hmm
or whatever. He told us a story about a guy who was going to pay some way and he pitched him on getting the credit card. Or no, a lower interest, like different kind of card. He was going to use his Dillard's card.
Wow.
This is cracking me up just hearing about it. And my manager, a guy named Tim Thompson, said, well, if you apply for this kind of card or whatever, I don't remember the specifics, you'll get 0 interest for so long and then a discount on the product. So they was going to buy this big VCR, which he got commissions on.
hmm
And he came back and the credit was declined and they took his other card.
No, they did not.
So he didn't get to buy this VCR, which was probably $1,000. And
Oh,
I've never forgotten that story.
that is a
I still
great
crack
story.
up thinking about that. And so Tim said he had to go tell the guy, "Yeah, I can't approve you for the card. Also, we're not going to be selling you this VCR today."
Oh my
God.
word.
Yeah.
And there's 2 people here that are gonna escort you out. I mean, that's just what a and you're under arrest. Good
We need to check your
grief.
wife's purse.
Oh my word. What humiliating.
Did you come in here with those shoes, sir?
What a humiliating experience.
Yeah.